What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into this video. My name is Joe. I went through a computer programming boot camp with zero prior knowledge. I'm doing my best to document my journey and my experience. So if that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to tag along and see how I turn out. So let's jump into the 3 things that I wish I knew before going into a computer programming boot camp. Now, before I jump in, I do want to point out that you don't need to know these things, okay? I certainly didn't, hence the title of this video. But if you are planning on attending a coding boot camp, I highly recommend you pay attention to what I have to say because I think it could make a big difference. I also know there's a lot of people out there that have done this video, and this is just from my experience. So the 3 things that I wish I knew may not be the same things that someone else has said in their own video. Everybody's experience is a little bit different, but these are the 3 things that I wish that I knew from my personal experience. All right, starting with number 1. The number 1 thing that I wish I knew before going to a computer programming boot camp is I wish that I had some prior coding knowledge. Now, I know that a lot of these boot camps out there, they do advertise no coding experience necessary, which is true. That is true. There are a lot of people like myself that did go through with zero prior experience, and things have turned out okay. Things have turned out okay for me. But I will mention that I didn't write my first hello world, my very first line of code, until 2, maybe 3 weeks before I jumped into this full-time 40 hours a week coding boot camp. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be an expert by any means. You certainly don't. When I got started with freecodecamp.com, which is an okay resource. Actually, it's actually a pretty good resource, but looking back, there are things that I wish I did differently to prepare. What I wish I did differently, I wish instead of using freecodecamp.com, I wish I would have done something like Traversy Media's YouTube channel, or he also has courses on Udemy, Brad Traversy. His intro to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, probably in that order, would have been better for me, I think. Although Free Code Camp was a good idea, I think that those other courses would have given me a better hands-on experience, a little bit more real-world experience. And what I mean is it gives you a better understanding of a code editor, of different files, creating files, and linking all of these files together. Because if you know, there's a lot more to coding than just writing code. And when I went into the boot camp, I picked up the code, but a lot of the linking of the files and how things interacted, that was a struggle for me. And so I think Free Code Camp didn't really provide that for me. It's a great resource, but I personally don't really like coding directly into the browser. I think I would have gone further if I were to do something with a code editor, like I said. Number 2, the second thing I wish I knew before going through a computer programming boot camp, and that is I wish I knew my way around a computer more. So I know this one, there's going to be a lot of you out there that mastered this before you can even walk. But for others of you like myself, learning basic computer functions is going to go a long way. When I got started, I had to write down my Free Code Camp username and password, and I had to basically log into any computer I could find at the time, whether that was a work computer, girlfriend's computer, mom's computer. I would log in and I would study. I didn't get my first computer until just a few days before class started. So when class did start, a lot of the basic kind of computer functions were a challenge for me. I want to point this out because there was a pretty decent sized portion of people that didn't even make it to the second week of class. Okay, a good portion of students dropped out in the first week. It wasn't really because coding is hard, although it is. Learning to code is not easy. A lot of them dropped because they just couldn't simply follow. They couldn't follow along with some of these basic things. We would download a project, they wouldn't know where it is. We would open up an application, they wouldn't know where it is. There's a lot of things that you really need to learn. You need to learn a lot of the basic computer work. When I say basic computer work, what I mean is just you need to understand your operating system. If you have a Windows or a Mac, you need to find out what computer you have, jump on YouTube and look up 10 tips and tricks for my computer. Okay, that's going to go a long way. There's a lot of people that dropped out of the class because they couldn't follow along. And once you start to learn the basics, then you can start to learn some of the more things that are going to really come in handy, like keyboard shortcuts, quick find. You need to make sure you know how to install applications properly when things download. Make sure you know where it goes. If you're going to school to be a programmer, I hope you realize that you're going to spend a lot of time sitting and typing. So it's important to make sure you learn good posture when you're sitting. You also want to increase your typing speed. That's going to go a long way. My previous video, the one before this one, I talk about my favorite typing game. It's a really fun game I like to play to help me increase my typing speed. I apologize. All of my videos are actually really crappy quality. That one in particular is not very good, but the game itself is a lot of fun. So go check that out. All right, and finally, the third thing I wish I knew before going to a coding bootcamp. Now, this one is going to be a little bit different than the other two, and there's honestly nothing that I could have done to change it, but it's something that I wanted to include because I think some of you might need to hear it. I wish I knew sooner how much I like to write code. Like I said, there's nothing I could have done any differently. The first opportunity I had, the first time thinking about going to a computer coding bootcamp, went into my mind. I thought, that's a good idea, and I jumped right in. I'm really glad that I did. It's something that I really enjoy doing a lot, and I wish I would have found it when I was a kid. I wish I would have found it when I was a teenager. I keep looking back at all this time thinking, I wish I would have done it sooner. Either way, I'm glad that I'm doing it now. So if you are sitting on the fence about going to a computer programming bootcamp, if you wonder if it's right for you, I say do it. I really do. I think it's going to be a good decision for you. It's been a really good decision for me, and my life's been blessed in a lot of ways. Looking back, I wish I would have prepared harder, because I look at some of the students that had some prior knowledge. Okay, there were the students that had years and years of experience. They did really, really well. But there were other people that came in, they gave themselves a few months time to study. They went through everything on Free Code Camp, or they bought a couple Udemy courses. I look at those guys, and those guys went a long way, okay? They're a lot further along in their journey than I am. And with that being said, even though I feel like I'm so far behind, I actually got fired from my last job, everything's been worth it. I'm glad that I made the decision to go through a coding bootcamp. But most importantly, I'm glad that I stuck with it. I feel like I was right on the line of being one of the students that dropped out and didn't make it. I'm glad that I stuck with it, because there was a moment where things just kind of clicked for me, and it went from this nightmare that I was forcing myself through to finding one of the greatest things in the world, from a nightmare to a hobby, to a passion, to something that I enjoy doing. I'm glad that I made the decision. I wish I would have gone through sooner, but there's really nothing I can do about it. So if you're sitting on the fence, deciding if you want to go to a computer programming bootcamp or not, I say do it. Okay, I know it's a big commitment, but I think it's going to be worth it. As long as you go through, and you don't need to follow steps 1 and 2, but if you don't, there's a high chance you're going to be one of the few that drops out. So I recommend you get learning, jump in, start learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, start learning how to use your computer. And as long as you know some of these basic things, you're going to go a long way. You're going to get the skills that you need to get a job. So again, thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys are interested, you guys want to follow my journey more, I mentioned I got fired from my last job. I'm now kind of currently applying for new jobs. So if that's something that interests you, you guys just want to chat, you need help, you got questions about your boot camp, leave some comments down below, send me a message, whatever, okay? The channel's still super small right now, and so I appreciate every single one of my subscribers, and I hope to hear from you guys. So I'll catch you guys on the next video.